Let's start with something that surprises almost everyone I work with, the sweet stuff that sneaks into your meals, even when you think you're eating healthy. You might not be pouring sugar into your morning coffee anymore, but the ketchup on your sandwich or the heart-healthy cereal in your cabinet might be quietly working against your energy, your mood, and yes, your libido. What many people don't realize is that high amounts of hidden sugar can gradually disrupt your hormone levels, especially testosterone, which is critical for both desire and vitality. Over time, it also affects circulation and increases inflammation. Two things your body needs to manage well if you want to stay active in every sense of the word. If lately you've been feeling a little off, more tired, or disconnected from the things that once brought you joy, sugar might be part of the story, and it could be worth a second look at what's actually in your pantry. I remember one client, especially well, Richard, a retired Navy mechanic, 67, from outside Tallahassee. Tough guy, proud of his independence, used to fixing everything himself, but over the last year, he told me, I don't feel like myself anymore. He wasn't sleeping as well, didn't have the same get up and go, and told me in confidence that his interest in intimacy had dropped off completely. We started looking at his habits, and something small jumped out. Every meal had ketchup, BBQ sauce, or sweet mustard. It's just a little flavor, he shrugged. But when we sat down together and started reading the labels, his eyes went wide. 4 grams of sugar in just 1 tablespoon, and he was using 3 or 4 with every meal. It wasn't just ketchup. His high-fiber cereal had more sugar than a donut. His low-fat yogurt sweetened with corn syrup. I remember his granddaughter, Chloe, pointing at a label and saying, "Gramps, this has more sugar than my juice box." That moment clicked for him. We didn't overhaul everything overnight. We started small. He swapped sauces for homemade, tomato paste with herbs, tried cinnamon instead of sugar in his oatmeal, and started actually reading what was in the food he was buying. Within a few weeks, he called and said, "I'm not 20 again, but I don't feel like an old car that won't start anymore." What often helps, and I've seen it more than once, is simply making it a habit to check the sugar content on the label. Anything over 5 grams of sugar per serving? That's your signal to pause and ask yourself if there's a better version of the same product. A lot of times there is. Look for no sugar-added tomato sauces. Try lemon juice or spices like garlic, chili, or turmeric to add flavor instead of sugar-heavy dressings or glazes. If you eat cereal, choose plain oat or low-sugar granola and sweeten it yourself with fruit, so at least you're in control of what's going in. It's not about being perfect. It's about being a little more aware. Here's the truth. You don't have to give up flavor to protect your health and energy. You just have to give up the things that are lying to you. Your body isn't asking for miracles, it's asking for honesty and care. The good news? Even small steps in the right direction begin to add up. Your energy starts to return, your mood lifts, and that spark, the one you thought was gone for good, might just flicker back to life. You deserve that, and it's never too late to get it back. Here's another one that surprises many of my older clients, those innocent-looking spreads and snack foods that claim to be heart-healthy, but might be silently working against your well-being. I'm talking about margarine and the trans fats often found in processed baked goods, fried snacks, and even some crackers or light microwave meals. What's the concern? Well, trans fats and certain vegetable oils can interfere with healthy circulation, promote inflammation, and blunt the sensitivity of your nerve endings. And that combination is a triple hit to your overall vitality, especially your libido. When blood flow slows down and your nervous system becomes less responsive, it's no wonder you might feel less connected, less energetic, or even emotionally distant from the people you love. And I want you to know it's not just getting older. Sometimes it's what's on the plate. I'll never forget working with Linda, a 71-year-old retired school teacher from Des Moines. She came to me mostly because she felt like she had faded out, as she put it. Her words, not mine. She was eating well, exercising lightly, had no major health issues, but still felt emotionally flat and told me, with some embarrassment, that she hadn't felt desire of any kind in over a year. Her doctors checked her hormone levels, which were within normal range for her age, but something clearly wasn't right. When we started going over her diet, I noticed she used margarine daily, in her toast, in her baking, and even a scoop in her vegetables, because that's how Mom used to make it. She also enjoyed packaged cookies in the evening, believing them to be a harmless comfort. We took a closer look, and nearly everything had hydrogenated oils or process shortening listed right at the top. I gently asked her to try switching real butter in small amounts instead of margarine, olive oil for cooking, and fresh fruit or dark chocolate in place of cookies. She agreed, a little skeptically at first, but after 3 weeks she told me it's like my brain and my heart are finally speaking again. Her words stuck with me. It wasn't about turning back the clock, it was about turning down the noise in her body so she could feel like herself again. What I often recommend, and it's a small but powerful step, is to start by reading the label on anything you're using daily. If you see the words hydrogenated oil or shortening, that's your signal to look for something cleaner. One of the easiest swaps? Use real butter, yes, the full-fat kind, in small amounts, or try extra virgin olive oil or avocado. Oil for cooking. They're natural, easier on your body, and help support the systems that keep you feeling alert, emotionally open, and connected to your partner and your own needs. And when it comes to snacks, the fewer ingredients, the better. A handful of nuts, a square of 80% dark chocolate, or even air-pop popcorn can satisfy the craving without leaving behind long-term damage. I always tell people this: your body isn't broken, it's just tired of running on fake fuel. When you switch to something real, something your body recognizes, something that isn't tricking your system, the difference can be quiet but powerful. You may not notice it overnight, but with a little consistency, you start waking up with more clarity, more warmth, and more willingness to engage in life, not because someone told you to, but because you can feel it from the inside out. And that spark, it's still there, just waiting for the fog to clear. Another common culprit that sneaks under the radar is salt. Not the kind you sprinkle from a shaker, but the hidden kind packed into processed meats, canned foods, and ready-made soups. Most of the older adults I work with are surprised to learn just how much sodium they're getting, even if they don't feel like they salt things too much. The issue here isn't just about blood pressure, although that matters too. It's also about circulation, fluid balance, and something we don't talk enough about: sexual function. When your blood vessels are stiff or your pressure's constantly elevated, the body has a harder time sending blood where it needs to go, including areas that matter for connection and intimacy. Add to that the fatigue and dizziness that often comes with too much salt, and it's easy to see why desire might feel distant or your energy just isn't there. One man who really helped me understand this better was George, a 74-year-old widower from Reno who started coming to our clinic for general wellness. He didn't have any major illnesses, but told me he just didn't feel steady anymore, sometimes lightheaded in the mornings, more tired than usual, and he quietly admitted that he didn't feel like a man lately. We reviewed his habits and found that breakfast was often a couple slices of packaged ham or bacon, lunch was canned soup, and dinner was usually a frozen entree or sandwich meat, not because he didn't care, but because cooking, for one, felt like too much work. I sat with him and showed him the sodium levels in some of his daily staples. We were looking at over 4,000 parm per day, nearly double the recommended limit. To his credit, he didn't brush it off. He went home, started swapping the canned soup for homemade batches I helped him plan ahead, and replaced processed meats with grilled chicken or boiled eggs. He added herbs and lemon juice for flavor and started checking labels for low-sodium options. A month later, his blood pressure was better. But what really stuck with me was when he said, "I feel like I can stand tall again, like my body's not fighting me." What often helps in these cases is starting small. If cooking feels like a big task, try prepping a batch of soup or stew on the weekend that you can portion out and freeze. That way you've always got a low-sodium option ready. Watch for terms like low sodium or no salt added on labels, and if a single serving has more than 400-500 milligrams of sodium, it's worth looking for an alternative. Swap processed meats for fresh or roasted cuts, and explore dried herbs, garlic, black pepper, or vinegar for flavor. The idea isn't to give up taste. It's to give your body a chance to function at its best. You deserve to feel steady, clear, and alive. And sometimes the first step is simply removing the things that are quietly holding you down. Your heart, your brain, and even your desire all thrive on good circulation and balanced rhythms. When you lower the salt, you don't lose anything important. You gain back the parts of yourself that have been waiting to reemerge. Even one small change can open a door you thought was closed. This one catches people off guard because it sounds healthy at first, but it's worth a closer look. A lot of diet product, protein bars, and vegetarian meat substitutes are packed with soy protein, and while soy in small amounts isn't necessarily harmful, eating it daily, especially in its processed forms, can start to affect your hormone balance, and that's particularly important when it comes to libido and emotional energy. Soy contains compounds called phytoestrogens, which mimic estrogen in the body. For older men, that can mean a drop in testosterone over time, which leads to decreased desire, lower energy, and sometimes even changes in mood. For women, especially postmenopausal, too much of it can throw off the natural balance your body is trying to maintain. You might not notice it right away, but over weeks or months, you might start to feel more emotionally flat, disconnected, or just less alive in your own skin. I remember working with Evelyn, a 69-year-old retired librarian from Portland, who came to me after feeling unusually tired and withdrawn. She described it as moving through fog and told me she hadn't felt interested in intimacy or social connection for nearly 6 months, which felt strange because that wasn't how she used to be. We talked about her medications, activity, level, and sleep. Nothing major stood out. But when we got to her food journal, I noticed she was eating soy-based granola bars every morning, soy milk in her tea, and soy-based veggie patties several nights a week. I thought I was being smart, she said, trying to eat lighter plant-based stuff. She had made the switch because of all the buzz around heart health and weight control, but in her case, it was quietly backfiring. I asked her to try scaling back and substituting those items with simple whole foods instead. Real eggs for breakfast, a small handful of nuts for snacks, and grilled chicken or fish for dinner. 3 weeks later, she emailed me, almost surprised. I feel like I've woken up from a nap I didn't know I was taking. Her energy came back, her mood stabilized, and in her words, my spark is back. One of the simplest ways to help your body find its balance again is to reduce the number of processed soy-based products you eat in a week. What helps many of my clients is going back to basics instead of reaching for that healthy protein bar. Try a boiled egg, a slice of turkey, or even a bit of cottage cheese with fruit. For dinner, lean meats or fish, or even lentils and beans, which don't contain the same estrogen-like effects as soy, are great choices. You don't have to avoid soy completely. Just don't make it your main source of protein every day. What I've seen again and again is that your body speaks to you, even if it's in a quiet voice. When it's off balance, you'll feel it, sometimes in your emotions, sometimes in your energy, sometimes in how connected or motivated you feel. And when you begin giving your body something it can truly work with, that inner voice starts to calm down and you begin to feel more like yourself again. You don't need extreme diets or expensive supplements, just real food, small shifts, and a little patience. Your body still wants to work with you, and it will, as soon as you give it the chance. Let me wrap up with something that often hides behind the label of just one glass, and that's alcohol. Whether it's a nightcap, a glass of wine with dinner, or a celebratory drink here and there, many of my older clients tell me it feels like a ritual, even a reward. And I get it. It's relaxing, familiar, even comforting. But here's the problem. Regular alcohol, even in small amounts, can quietly lower your hormone levels, interrupt your deep sleep cycles, and numb your nervous system's ability to respond, especially in areas of your body where blood flow and sensation matter most. It doesn't always feel like a problem right away, but over time, you might notice changes in your energy, your focus, your drive, and your sense of connection. What used to feel alive and responsive might start to feel distant or muted, and most people don't link that back to the wine bottle or the cocktail glass. A few years ago, I worked with Tom, a 70-year-old retired firefighter from Milwaukee, who came to me frustrated that he was doing everything right, but still feeling tired, foggy, and disinterested, not just in intimacy, but in life. He ate well, walked daily, stayed socially connected, and kept up with his doctor visits. The only thing that stood out was his nightly glass of red wine, sometimes 2, which he'd been having for over a decade. They say red wine's good for the heart, he told me with a smile. I didn't argue with that directly. Instead, I asked if he'd be willing to try something different for just 3 weeks. No wine, no beer, just herbal tea or sparkling water in the evenings, and keeping everything else the same. He agreed, reluctantly. 2 weeks in, he called me and said, I didn't realize how much better I could sleep. And by the end of the 3rd week, he said something I'll never forget. I feel like a man again. It wasn't dramatic or theatrical. He just said it plainly. His mood was better, his attention was sharper, and his desire, the one he thought had just faded with age, started coming back. One of the easiest ways to test this yourself is to take a short break. Not forever, just 2 or 3 weeks, and see how your body responds. If you're drinking every night, cut it to once or twice a week. If you're already moderate, try replacing it entirely for a little while. Use that time to notice how you sleep, how rested you feel in the hiai morning, how your body feels after meals, or how connected you feel to your partner or your own needs. You might be surprised by what just a few alcohol-free nights can do, especially if you pair that break with hydration and whole, nourishing foods. I tell my patients all the time, you're not giving up a pleasure, you're clearing the fog that's been sitting between you and the life you thought was behind you. Your body remembers how to feel clear and responsive, it just needs the chance to do it. That spark you think is gone? It might just be waiting for you on the other side of a few quiet, sober nights. You don't need to chase youth. You just need to listen when your body whispers instead of waiting until it shouts. If even one of these points surprised you, let us know in the comments. Maybe you've already tried cutting out some of these ingredients. Share what changed for you. If this video was helpful, give it a like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss the next one. Remember, you're not alone. You're stronger than you think. Life goes on if you hold it by the hand.